All right, well, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:06. And we will start consent agenda. Did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting that's sent out like a week ago or so ago? And does anybody have any comments, changes, questions about those?
Yeah, this is Gene. I sent you something about the change in the bylaws. That didn't seem right.
So the as far as what was in the minutes,
Yeah.
okay, I guess I missed that. Apologize. So we need to make a change to the minutes for that. My recollection was that you had sent out some proposed change to the minutes, or to
Yeah,
sorry
all
to
I
the
did is
proposed change.
saying we need a quorum.
Right. Yeah. So you had sent that out after the meeting, correct? As a proposed change to the bylaws.
Right.
And so that has to be voted on by the general membership, then it has to be done at the general meeting, which will be next November. So
Yeah, I realized that, but the minutes
okay.
say something about Gene was going to do this and this and this, and I didn't do any of that.
Okay. Let's see here.
Karen, did you get my email?
So the
You
minutes here
agreed
say,
to do.
the minutes say Gene will draft new wording, basically eliminating section 5 and using section 6. So,
Yeah, I
and
didn't do that.
that's not what you did?
And as far as electronic voting, that's already in our bylaws. So I didn't have to do anything with that either.
Right. Okay. So you drafted new wording to require a forum or to
Yeah, a quorum to elect officers.
I remember
Yeah, and
getting
get
that.
rid
Here's
of
the attached
electronic
file.
voting
This was
too.
in December?
Well, this was yes. We discussed the change to the bylaws to allow electronic voting, but it's already in there. So, but it was part of the discussion, as I recall.
Okay.
So we determined we didn't need to.
So Gene, your only change email you sent me on December 23rd says a majority vote of those chapter members in good standing present, including proxy votes, at the annual meeting will be sufficient to elect all officers and directors, provided there is a quorum. That would, the last part is all you added.
Yeah, I just added the part about the quorum. That's the only thing I added.
Okay.
I had it highlighted in yellow.
Yes. Yes.
So are you guys looking at the 12-11 minutes on my shared screen now? Okay, let me make sure that actually changes windows.
Now I'm looking at the agenda.
Are you guys everybody else looking at the agenda?
No, you got the bylaws
can't
or the
tell.
minutes.
Okay.
All right, I can't tell because I'm having.
Okay, I think we need to move on.
Yeah. So I made a change to this to reflect what Gene is saying. So with that change, is everybody willing to accept these minutes?
Aye.
So I need a motion and a second.
Oh. I move we accept the minutes as amended.
Minutes as revised in section 4A.
Okay.
Seconded.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Okay. Does anybody have changes to the agenda? Karen, did you get? What was that, Karen?
So, I have an addition
Okay,
to add the Colorado Rail Safety Bill support or position. Are we there?
else? Okay, I added that as item K at the bottom of the agenda or the new business. Do you have information on that you can send? How time sensitive is that?
I mean, I don't. It's a very simple thing that we'll do.
Other agenda changes? I had sent out an email this morning with some kind of updates on a couple of proposed mine permit things. Does anybody want to talk about that tonight, or we can look at that down the road? There's nothing we have to do right now. There's a March 27th deadline to put comments in on the Leadville mill, and then there's the public comments for the other one has already passed, but that's kind of moved over to the Colorado TU court for the fair play thing. So, but if anybody wants to add it, we can, or we can do a different meeting if people want to talk about that. I'll take that as a no. So
I honestly, I appreciate your hard work on that. You know what I mean? Just sending that little primer was very valuable.
all right, good. Cool. All right, let's move on to section 2 here. Does anybody have any remarks or comments they want to make in general?
Yeah, I have one. It'll be brief, but I just contacted both of the new editors for the Mountain Mail in Salida and Chaffey County Times. We had kind of a standing order in with them that we'd produce one article from our chapter per month, and the two new ladies seemed anxious to accommodate us to do that again, which I think is good just for, brand recognition. Usually get the logo in those articles, and they're articles and not advertisements. So I need authors. Jerry writes a good one. Anybody else can write 700 words. Send it to me. I'll edit it if necessary and format it, add our logo, and send it to the editors. So sometimes they're fishing articles, maybe half the time, but sometimes they're conservation articles or just human interest stories. 700 words. I know most of you guys can write, so give me some help.
Yeah, I'd be glad to submit one or chip in there. Are there monthly deadlines or like publication deadlines, or do we just kind of email you separately?
Well, we just, Scott, we just started it back up. So I'm shooting for like the first week in March.
Okay.
Mostly so we can mention the speaker we're having for that monthly meeting.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I've read his book and heard him on podcasts, and it's gonna be a good one.
Okay. Compose one and send it to me. You don't have to format it in any way, because I'll end up doing that anyway.
Okay. I'll volunteer right here and now to put together a little article that features what the chapter's doing with that speaker in the meeting and send it your way, and we can go back and forth and see.
Sounds great, Scott. Thank you very much.
You got it. Okay.
It looks like we lost Karen. Can someone else volunteer to jump into the agenda and take notes for minutes? Can somebody else like act as secretary? Since it sounds like Karen was having trouble.
I'm sorry, I'm back
Anyway.
now. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's all right. No, you got a sketchy connection there. So I was gonna have somebody else jump in and take minutes just in case we lose you again.
Thank you.
And if somebody wants to just jump into the agenda and take them there, that's probably the easiest.
Do it on your phone because it seems to work fine for the phone. You just can't.
So did you add the discussion of the mill and fair play to later somewhere?
I didn't add it here.
Okay.
There's nothing that's
Yeah,
nothing really to be done at the moment from the chapter level.
okay.
So, and then Keith talked about putting articles in the Times and the Mountain Mail. So that's as far as we got, and we were just moving on to the upcoming meetings.
I have an additional remark just very quickly.
Yeah, please.
It's not really pertaining to Trout Unlimited specifically, but Garna is entering into a conservation partnership with a semi-national nonprofit called Sporting Lead Free that advocates for lead-free ammo when you're hunting. And they also have sort of a soft dedication to lead-free tackle when fishing. So I don't know if that's something that our chapter of Trout Unlimited would be interested in, but there is going to be a potential for partnership in the future. So just want to put that out there.
What's the name of the group again?
It's called Sporting Lead Free. And we
Okay.
actually have an ambassador for the organization here in Salida, Aaron Kindle, who's also president of, I think, the National Wildlife Federation or Foundation, who lives in Salida, is their representative. And he lives here in Salida and is a community member. So we do have a good line of contact with them pretty regularly.
Sounds great. Yeah, that's a big deal. I remember when the change from lead shot to steel shot happened in waterfowling, and it was a great thing. And we really saw relatively quickly, I think we saw results in terms of environmental health.
Yeah, I think from a Garna perspective, there's a lot of potential there for like public facing educational events. And I think that's where we're trying to engage with the community the most. Because I had a training with them / a demo day with them, and it really sort of like put a lot of things into perspective. So organizationally, we're going to partner with them to some varying degree for future events. So
Great. Yeah, that sounds like something that's right up our alley. Okay, anybody else? All right, let's keep on rolling. So upcoming meetings and events, we got a lot going on. March 14th, Ben Goldfarb. I really want to get out and push this hard. Ben is a big deal. He's a best-selling author. He's got 2 amazing books out. If you haven't read them, you really need to read them. One on beavers that will blow your mind, and his new one is on road ecology, which will also blow your mind. And he's going to kind of narrow that one down to probably more talking specifically about like culvert issues and things like that. But that book was amazing too. So we booked the Poncha Town Hall so we could have room for more people, and we're going to be working with our UAWP partners, Garna and Central Colorado Conservancy and so on, to spread the word and out to the community at large and try to get a real good turnout there. April 20th.
I have a
What?
question.
Yeah.
And maybe this is for Scott. Is anybody familiar with the social media platform Nextdoor?
I know of it. And
Okay.
honestly, I've kind of avoided it a little bit. But
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
our League of Women Voters has been putting out words about our meetings, and we've been maxed out the last 3 meetings. So it
Oh,
might
cool.
be something that we explore to put our meetings and the film festival and that stuff on.
Okay. And this is just kind of showing my ignorance a little bit about our kind of comms going out here. I know that different people handle, so I'm doing the newsletter now, and different, I think Chris, you're on the Facebook, and who's doing Instagram. I don't know if there needs to be like
Is Tom Polka still doing some of that?
I'm pretty much doing Facebook and Instagram,
Okay.
but Tom jumps in every so often and does something.
Gotcha.
So
That's great. And then it will
yeah.
Because that goes from Howard to Granite.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Maybe I'll
Okay,
mention
yeah.
it to Tom.
Yeah, anything we can do, and that's free as well. So that's nice.
Sure. Might get some
Jake,
memberships out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jake,
And
did you have?
Yeah, just kind of questions. Is this like a ticketed event open for the public? And if so, how are these tickets getting bought and sold, or is it just at the door?
It's free. Like all of it's a regular chapter meeting, so it's free. We haven't been looking at doing ticketing, because if we fill the room, I'll be super stoked and slightly surprised. But so I haven't been doing any ticketing, but we do have a ticketing platform we can use online if we think we need to. But yeah, it's just I hadn't I didn't think it was going to be necessary, so I hadn't really thought too much about it. So,
Sure, yeah.
but it's a free event and everybody's welcome. So,
I was just
Chris?
wondering, is there a way, in case we get some people from the community who don't necessarily maybe even know what Trout Unlimited is, they just think, hey, that's a cool looking event, I want to go, or they're familiar with Ben. Do we ever even just put like do we have a clipboard with email signups, or do we make a little pitch at the meeting to kind of like, hey, if you're interested in learning more about membership or you want to get on the newsletter, like
We can
just
table.
has to capture new people or whatever.
yeah, definitely.
Done
And
that
that's- and-
multiple times, Scott.
Okay.
Not every time. I think it's still effective enough to keep it going, but you have to remember to do it and get the clipboard out there.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Chris, we used to call those free stuff I did friend raisers. We did a couple of movies where we asked for voluntary donations. I think we sold or had some cookies or something there too. But I think it's legitimate to call this a friend raiser. And I'm sure Ben will bring copies of his books. I own both of them. You're encouraged to buy and read them. I think they're really great. So maybe that's a little bit of compensation he can take away.
Okay, yeah, that's a great idea. And that's, yeah, definitely part of the hope with this of promoting it harder out to the community at large rather than just a regular, what we do with a typical chapter meeting is to try to get people in and spread our message. And so, yeah, I plan that we'll have a brief introduction for him that will talk about Trout Unlimited and our mission. So
Cool.
yeah, that's definitely part of the goal, is to raise awareness and maybe get a few new members, hopefully. So yeah.
Perfect.
So next then would be the Film Fest at the Ivy Ballroom. We're looking good for that. As far as our organizational, we've got it. It's all, the films are paid for, the room's booked, all that stuff. So we're definitely going to be using that as a major fundraising push. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I want to talk a little bit really quickly about the financial structure with this. Just it's not different than it was last year, but I think last year it was definitely a little bit confusing for some people, and that was probably my fault. I wanted to push it as a Trout Unlimited event, which it is, but technically speaking, it's Upriver it's their event, and they're basically donating half of the profits to us, and then they're allowing us to do raffles and stuff. But like technically speaking, they're the ones that booked the room, they're the ones that got the films and all that stuff, and we are their beneficiary essentially. But we're also going to be using it as a fundraiser, getting sponsorships and things like that. They're letting us kind of do all that, but strictly speaking, it's their event. And so just to make it clear to other people in the community.
So we aren't considered a quote co-sponsor?
No, I wouldn't say so, because they're putting it on, they're letting us solicit other sponsors, but I would say that those sponsorships will be a Trout Unlimited sponsorship, a sponsorship of the chapter, and the film festival gives us an opportunity to recognize those sponsors publicly, as like we'll have slideshow going, thanking our sponsors like we did last year before the films and everything. So it's an opportunity for us to give more recognition to our sponsors than we normally would. So it's a great opportunity for us to use it as a fundraiser, but I wouldn't say that we're like a sponsor per se. It's not quite structured that way.
Are they going to do all the advertising and the posters then?
We've got posters going. Yeah, we're working on all that together. So we've got a bunch of posters, some already up in BV, and some to put down in
But is
Salida.
PPC's logo on there?
Is what?
Is our logo on there, or?
We got ones from the Film Fest that don't have any of our logos other than their national sponsors, but we've got the electronic file. Then we're going to add our logos to print some more.
Okay.
So then and then the other thing we're going to do there, which we didn't do last year, We're gonna move the raffle items down by in front of the screen. There's a lot of dead space up there, and so it won't be like, so they'll block the films, but so that'll, as opposed to having them in the back of the room like we did last year, which was super crowded. So we're gonna move those up front, and then we're also gonna have some tables out in the hallway where there's room out there for a couple of tables for nonprofits. So Karen, I'd love to have you there again, registering voters. And then we've got, if anybody knows Lance Kittle, his wife Skylar is real active with Casting for Recovery, and she asked to have a table there. And she's going to build a custom rod to raffle off to raise money for them. And then we're going to have a table for the UAWP with our new coordinator there. And then we have space for one more nonprofit out there. If anybody has any thoughts, you can shoot me an email about that. So
Maybe
we'll have,
Garner.
so yeah, we're gonna have the UAWP person out there, which is kind of Garna's included in UAWP.
Okay.
They're part of the leadership, so that would be Garna and CCC and Arwick and all those guys are kind of would be included in that, and we haven't figured out the details of that yet, but that's going to be part of it. So that's something to think about, is if you guys have another great local nonprofit that you think should be there, let me know.
Who did
Sorry,
you hire
Chris.
for the position?
Nathan Ward.
Oh, that's right. You told me that.
Yeah. We'll yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. We'll get back to that down below.
I didn't see that.
So
Gotcha. Just so I'm clear, Chris, when you're talking about the nonprofits in the hallway, does that include us? Do we have a table there too?
Oh, we should.
we don't. We
With
probably
somebody
should.
there with a clipboard and just the sign up?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
No,
happy to,
you're-
or whatever. Like,
That's
again,
a
just
great- yeah, that's a
drawing
good-
people in who
That-
might not know us. They've heard of the,
No,
they're in town for the week.
that's a really great and obvious idea that I'm not sure why I didn't think of.
And we have membership forms,
Well, I'm happy
membership brochures. I have some.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, that's our fourth thing.
Couldn't the UAWP table have a logo sheet for each one of the participating organizations right there? And that would certainly be a good place for ours.
Yeah, I don't see why we can't take a little extra space for ourselves though, in this
All right.
case. But yeah, I see definitely UAWP people will all have that. And that's all stuff that we can hash out later. We've got 2-3 months to get that figured out. So
Righto.
so moving down the list here, the TU Colorado Trout Unlimited has quarterly board meetings, and the spring one they move around, and they're going to have it in Salida this year. So it's going to be at the Scout Hut. April 27th, Saturday will be the main day. Sunday, I think it might be a little bit of stuff in the morning, and then we're going to try to have like a service day for the people that come back. So we're working on that, talking with Jess from Rec Adopters potentially about putting like a cleanup or something together, so we don't have any specific things of our own. Hopefully we're going to get some people in who come in early to go to the film fest and then kind of hang out and fish on Friday and then go to the meeting Saturday, Sunday. So hopefully we'll have a bunch of Colorado TU like board chapter presidents and stuff from elsewhere in the state coming in for the weekend, for a long weekend. So might be some people looking for some guidance on where to fish and whatnot. If anybody feels like being a free amateur guide who's not already a professional guide, that might be something that people are looking at. Parallel with that, our first Healing Waters outing is going to be at Franz Lake on the 27th, that Saturday. So Gene had sent out a thing there. If anybody's interested in being a mentor who hasn't already gone through the training, those are some of my favorite days on the river of the year. And so it's well worth it if anybody hasn't gotten involved. And then we'll talk a little bit later about Gene's Veterans Committee report that he sent out. Let's see, the May 8th chapter meeting, Noel Clark, who is our scholarship recipient, will be talking, and hopefully we're going to have the kids that went to the Colorado TU camp last year talking about their experiences. The 14th of August is their second Healing Waters thing which is going to be up on Don's property again. Thanks again, Don, for being willing to host us up there. That was great last year.
Where is that? When is that? I missed that. Maybe that's not on the agenda I have. You said the second Healing Waters is when?
Yeah, I added those this morning. It's August 14th,
Okay.
which is, I believe, a Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay. So then September 10th will be our chapter meeting in Salida, and Michelle White she owns the Tumbling Trout Fly Shop in Lake George. She's got 4 different programs she does, which all sound really great, and we need to pick one. So I'd sent out an email a few days ago that was a follow-up on the one that Karen had sent out a while back, listing those. So we need to decide which one of those programs we want her to do. If anybody has any thoughts on that, has anybody looked at that?
I did, and the reservoirs one looked good to me because I can't stand fishing reservoirs and I want to be persuaded. So I've listened to a podcast with her. Actually, I stumbled on that on my own. I've listened to a couple of the episodes. One she did on the Subaruable of South Park, and then I kind of got hooked on that one, and I listened to another one that she did, and she's quite a knowledgeable character.
Yeah,
So,
she knows a lot. She has a very dry sense of humor, so sometimes it takes a little while to like once you figure that out. But I've watched her speak. She's very good. And I'd be curious. I think I watched her Subaru-able fly fishing, or maybe it was the lesser known fly fishing venues of South Park, which was for me kind of fun because so many people focus on the big popular places. So it's kind of fun to learn about some of the other spots. But I'd be curious to hear her reservoir presentation. I don't know.
Well, that's kind of different. So, because we already had one from, what's his name on South Park. So I'd go with the reservoir one.
Yeah,
Might
Chris
be a different crowd.
Yeah, Chris Dirksen sort of overlap these. So, yeah, if you guys want to do that, does that sound cool to everybody?
Sure.
Okay. Again, we got plenty of time. It's not till September, but as long as we're all in one spot, we can kind of let her know that.
Yep.
All right. So then September 16th is going to be our Moonlight Monday date. Rick Helmick is continuing to be our point person for that. They're changing it up a little bit. They're going to be doing fewer groups every year, and I think they're going to do I think it's a 2-week period for each one rather than 1 week, and do additional promos and stuff. So there's a little bit more work for us to do, but there's also, I think, more payoff and more publicity to be had there. So, and they just changed their program up for 2024. So anybody have any other comments or questions about that whole section before we move on to new business? All good? Okay. New business. First item is one that we had talked about briefly at the last meeting and tabled to this meeting, which was voting on whether we want to do a $1,000 contribution to the salary of the new UAWP watershed coordinator. And I mentioned before, Nathan Ward, some of you may know Nathan. He is an Emmy Award winning filmmaker, and he's a accomplished writer. He's written for Outside Magazine and so on and so forth. His family homesteaded in the Arkansas Valley, and he's lived in Salida his whole life. He knows everybody. So he's going to be great in that position. Just his contacts, his understanding, his history, and he's done a lot of work with outreach and fundraising for all sorts of groups. So he started work actually Monday, and he's going to be primarily his office officially is at the Central Colorado Conservancy. So, but his salary is paid for by all of the partner organizations partly through contributions like this, and also a large part is written into grants. Like we've got a significant amount of money written into that proposed CWCB grant that we're waiting to hear on for the South Arc, and that has a good chunk of money in it for grant management and public and stakeholder outreach and stuff. And so that would be, something that would fall to this position, at least in part. So, and all of the partner organizations are being asked to contribute like $1,000 to that, which is not a huge part of the salary, but it's important both somewhat symbolically, but it's actually important for really showing that we're committed. An example of that is that we're working on another not a grant, but an application for a program that will help us to with design and capacity things for the South Arc design. It's a National Park Service program, and they are real big on collaborations. And so we will be all the UAWP members will be writing letters of our commitment, saying that we're part of this, that we're taking on these commitments to this project and so on. And so we can show that we have financial skin in the game. That goes a long ways to legitimizing this partnership. And I see structures like this as how we're going to do our projects in the future. Like this meeting that we had, Keith was there, Jake was there representing Darna. We had over a dozen people there from everywhere. We had several people from the city there, and Southwest Conservation Corps, Central Colorado Conservancy, Garna, all coming together to really talk about a common vision for this project and sharing resources and expertises of the staffs of all of these places that we don't have as a volunteer organization. So that's my pitch. You already know where I stand on it anyway. So hopefully you guys had a chance to read that background article that I had sent out. So I'd like to open the floor to comments and questions and discussion on that.
I'd like to start out just by saying that there was an enormous amount of hours and effort to find and hire the coordinator position. I was kind of sitting on the edge, and Chris was in it with both feet as usual, really doing a great job. I think this exactly aligns with our mission, so I'm in 100% support of it.
I noted in the budget there's a line item for the UAWP watershed plan for $2,000. I don't know what that was earmarked for, but there's already $2,000 in the budget for that particular organization
For 2023.
I can pull that up and show you there for if you want to look at that, but
This is not on there. I thought we had it. Thought we had the budget posted on here, but I guess not. Do you I'm not sure what that was for. Keith, do you know what we had that in the budget for?
Well, my eyebrows kind of raised when Don said that, because I don't recall earmarking anything specifically for UAWP use.
No, and it wasn't for this position, because we had been talking about this position when that budget was created. So this would be different, but I also don't know that where we would need that $2,000 for anything else from UAWP. So.
And this says Upper Arkansas Watershed Resiliency Plan. And then Pam's got a note here, potential projects as plan develops. Keith Krebs, member of the committee, additional grant in 2022. Keith, 23-24.
Okay, the Watershed Resiliency Plan was kind of the umbrella under which UAWP did some stream assessments. That we did fluvial hazard zone mapping, and we did a stream health assessment, and that's all been being used to identify and prioritize future projects. So I think that was probably there to help pay for additional assessments as needed. But yeah, I don't see that as being necessary. There may be some additional fluvial hazard zone mapping that happens down valley, but that's not going to be happening right
Yeah,
now.
I
probably.
don't think it was ever used. That's why I couldn't remember it. What
Yeah.
about just earmarking 1,000 of that for the support for the position and taking the other 1,000 out or putting it somewhere else in the budget?
It's on that.
That sounds good to me.
Sounds great.
Okay. More to the point is, I mean, we'll just do a nods here and we'll take a formal vote, but does anybody have questions, concerns, thoughts on the overall concept of contributing that $1,000? And then we can talk about where exactly it's going to come from, but
I'll just second what Keith said a moment ago. And speaking as kind of a new resident of the Valley, and my habit is, I've lived a lot of places over the West, and my habit is kind of to try to get involved and just see what's going on with conservation and fishing and different things like that. And I was shocked at and pleased at how many different nonprofits are operating in this region. And it's a great thing, but it's also can be a challenge. And to the point of the article you shared, Chris, there can be some duplication of work, there can be some dilution of mission, and so on and so forth. And so I think this is just an awesome opportunity to have one person who's kind of managing stakeholders, really project managing a lot of this stuff. And so I'm in full support of it. I think it's and probably some of the other organizations, Garna, Central Colorado Conservancy, they're probably having the same conversation and going, well, I'm glad somebody is going to be doing the talking to everybody, and kind of pulling all those threads together. So I think it's great, personally.
Yeah, I was a little hesitant about this, and I put that whole list of those damn organizations together, and people from Utah called me about that. But because we were all doing so many of the similar things, we need to have somebody coordinate that. So I would vote to give that $1,000 there.
okay. Are we ready to take it to a vote then, or do we have any more discussion or comments?
I have a question. What do we do with the other $1,000? Are we going to give that to them as well?
No, not at this point. I think we'll just roll that back and use it for something else. So, yeah, at this point, I don't anticipate needing any additional. And my thought was, I didn't realize that money was there. My thought was we were talking, and actually, really, what I want to do is vote on including $1,000 for this in the 2024 budget, which would go into effect in April. And that's really what I want to look at here. We wouldn't necessarily need to give them that money right now. That was kind of the discussion that I had with them, with everybody, was that was the timing of our fiscal year. So that was the idea. So
Very good.
what I would anticipate is that we would just change that item to 1,000 in the 2024 budget and have it indicated that was to go to the watershed coordinator.
Cool.
Do
Yeah,
you
no.
wanna do you want to include that in the motion? 1,000 for this year and 1,000 for next year?
I don't think we need to do 1,000 for this year. So
We don't?
they'd be happy if we did, but that's not what I had talked about with them. So
Are we modifying the budget then?
no, we won't be modifying the 2023 budget. We'll modify the 2024 when we draft that budget. We'll make that item $1,000 specifically for the watershed coordinator.
So I'm confused about what the motion is. Just to give
motion-
$1,000 for 24 budget?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, the motion would be to allocate $1,000 in the 2024 fiscal year budget to contribute to the salary of the UAWP watershed coordinator.
Yeah, I think if it helps position us further the mission, then we should do it. It's only $1,000.
Okay. So do you have that motion down, Karen?
Yes.
Okay. So can somebody motion?
second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Next item, and I just wanted to real briefly talk. I talked a little bit already about fundraising for the IF4. As I said, this is our best opportunity to give recognition to sponsors. Last year, Keith and Mark and I spent like 2 afternoons wandering around to a very small targeted group of businesses to try to get sponsorships, and we had like a 90% success rate. So it's clear that we can do that, and our thought was to use the group of businesses who historically had contributed to the Caddis Festival and go and see if they would still support the chapter. So that would be kind of our starting point. With the event being on April 25th, I want to get started with that at the beginning of March. So I talked to Keith about getting a fundraising committee meeting together in the next a week or two to get everything ready to go and start pounding the pavement, because it does take time and multiple visits to everybody. So I certainly plan to spend a good amount of time doing this. I'm really hopeful that some of you will be willing to help out with that. And please, this is going to be, I think, hopefully a legitimate replacement for the Caddis Festival, which we haven't had in several years in terms of just a monetary return. Last year we did the raffle and the ticket sales, our share of the profit and the sponsorships, and we raised over $5,000 without trying too hard. So if we try a little harder, I think we can do really well. And we are going to have a lot more projects coming up, which is going to require matching funds and things like that. And so we do need to, I think, start building a bit of a nest egg for some significant like grant matching requirements and things like that coming up. So I'd rather be looking ahead at that than trying to scramble and find that money in the future. So if you're willing to do that, please let me know. If you have thoughts on other members who historically contributed to those efforts during the Caddis Festival and were good at it, let me know so we can kind of create a team here. I have some ideas I'm going to steal some spreadsheets and things from Garna that they use for their festival to keep everybody organized, so we're not hitting the same businesses 4 times and so on, so that we're
Good luck with that.
we're organized. Well, that's the idea.
My suggestion is we need to have something in writing to give these people as to what we do and what's the benefit, to the community for this and what might be the benefit for them.
We have a sales deck that Keith put together a few years ago, and then Mark and Keith and I worked on updating it last year, so it just needs a little bit of tweaking. And that's something that we'll do with the fundraising committee. But yeah, we've got like a 1-page, and then we've got a multi-page sales deck if people want it. So one thought here that we don't need to vote on, but I wanted to kind of get you guys' input. The guys from Upriver called me yesterday to ask. We have online sales for this, and then we also they have paper tickets that they're going to be selling at the store. And they wanted to see if we wanted to like give a free raffle ticket to the people who bought them in the store. We just take one of our things of raffle tickets down there and let them do that. I don't think there's an issue with giving them away in terms of like legality of the raffle. I'm not sure if we want to do that. So, and what the benefit would be, like if we had people that buy online and they don't get that versus ones that buy them in their store, other than it's goodwill for us to drive people into Upriver since we're getting support from them in terms of the profits from the ticket sales. So I'm pretty ambivalent about it, but I wanted to get you guys' input. My first thought is every one of those is $5 that we didn't raise with our raffle, or whatever, that's what we charged for a raffle ticket last year for the general raffle. So
have they shared anything with you about how the ticket sales are going, Chris?
We haven't really pushed it too much. We haven't really sold any tickets yet, but that's not unusual.
Well,
we haven't really.
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Okay. Did you buy it online?
I didn't know if they said like, hey, we've sold out half of it and online has gone crazy, or, because I'm just wondering if the trend is 80% of sales are coming from online or 90% of sales and like just a handful are coming through the store, then might not be a big deal. But I mean, if a significant proportion of sales are coming through paper tickets at Upriver, then that might not be what we want to do. But I was just curious if you had any beta on that.
That's interesting. So I haven't got last year I got reports from, like, anytime we sold tickets, I got a report emailed to me, and I didn't see a report from your ticket purchase, but so I didn't think we'd sold any. But last year was the first time we'd done it, and it was almost all online, but we didn't push the paper tickets at all. And so
Okay.
it's a question of if we push paper tickets, it might, and we said, hey, get a free raffle ticket if you buy it in person at Upriver. We might get more people doing it that way. But yeah, I'm not sure. We don't have a lot of data to go on. So we don't have any data to go on.
Do
Sure.
we know what's the capacity? Like, what's the maximum number of tickets? I think I've seen it
175.
somewhere. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
And are
that's
raffle tickets bought online generally?
no, that would be in person.
And it's just $5 flat. There's no price breaks at certain amounts.
No, we did do price breaks. We did like 10 for, I have to go back and look at it, but it was, yeah, it was like $5 and then 5 for $20, that kind of thing. So we did do price breaks for quantities. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
we-
we could do a further if you want to go down just a few bucks for in person. That way we're not missing out, but people are still getting a little bit more benefit to buy it in person. Drives people in. Just a thought.
What do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
So if it's $5, we just lower the price a little bit, right? So if you do 5 for 20 at the event, just do it. Sell them for
5 for
cheaper in store. Yeah.
5 for 18 or something like that.
Something just a little bit, just marginally different, so that there's like, oh, we're getting a benefit to this, right?
Yeah. We have to
The
talk to
issue is
Jerry.
Upriver wants the money from the raffle tickets, right? Is that what we're saying?
No, we're not talking about selling raffle tickets in the store. We're talking about when if somebody buys a ticket for the film festival, we would give them like a raffle ticket. In it, as opposed to the people out online, they just get their admission. So I don't think that legally, I don't think that they can sell tickets for the raffle. Because you have to be a nonprofit to have the raffle license, and I think you have to be like a representative of the nonprofit in order to sell the tickets. We have to look at the legalities. It's kind of arcane. The legalities around the raffles is kind of dicey. So
Yeah, the Secretary of State is hugely complicated and rigid. We've gone through the raffle license 2 or 3 times now. Last year, our smaller raffle was done through Colorado TU, but it still has to go through the Secretary of State office, and there's no flexibility or accommodation at all. So it takes months to get your raffle license. I don't think it would be worth it for them to even try for this small event.
and, yeah, we're not proposing to have them sell tickets. It would just be a question whether they give away a ticket when somebody buys a admission ticket.
I
Garda
think
has
that'd
a
be perfectly fine.
Garda has a slight workaround for this. What we've done in the past is we, again, hand out tickets. Everyone at the door gets 1 ticket, and you have to use the language of calling it a door prize. So you're not allowed to accumulate tickets by buying them, and you can't call it a raffle. But that's how we've done giveaways in the past to get around some of the legalities of being able to do raffles in name.
Yeah.
But
we
Chris,
have a
in this
raffle
case,
license.
it is a fundraiser though, right? For us.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
that
we will be doing a legitimate raffle at the event, and we have a raffle license, and we'll be doing it, in accordance to all that, and it's all clear. Just it's a question of whether we want to deal with the, so I think if they were to sell tickets there, I mean, if they were to give us all the money, but we're not talking about selling tickets at Upriver, selling raffle tickets at Upriver, rather. We're talking about giving them away. And so I don't think there's any legal issues with that, because they're not getting any benefit from it. I just don't know if we want to do it. I mean, it's like I said, ultimately it's everyone we give away is one less that we've sold to raise money for the chapter. So it was just something they asked about doing, and so I said I'd throw it out to you guys and get some input. So, what did everybody think? Yes or no?
No.
It just sounds kind of like a,
Yeah, no.
I don't know if it's really
Hard
keeping
no.
with the whole.
Yeah, I think it's just throwing another stick in the spokes that we don't need. So okay, I'll let them know that. And I may say some stuff about raffle license law just to
I just sent an email to Jerry
Diplomacy
Wright and
state.
Ann Kleiman because I believe they are our raffle license game managers.
Jerry
Jerry?
is our game manager. Yeah.
I didn't know if Ann still was. She had been. So I just asked them so we can at least get an opinion.
Okay.
If it's
Okay, cool.
okay to even do that going forward.
Okay. It seems like an extra complexity that we don't need to deal with. So, okay, are we good with moving on to the next item? I'll take that as a yes. So, Jake wanted to talk about the gear library and a potential fishing club. So, Jake, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks,
And let me,
Chris.
do you want me to have this up, or did you have a
Yeah.
specific spot you wanted that?
No, you can just leave that up.
Okay.
Sorry, I've been sick all day today. Caught a cold. Did some programming at Boys and Girls Club last week, and I'm pretty sure I caught something. So excuse my voice. I'm going to try to keep this as brief as I can. I'm not sure if any of y'all are familiar with the mobile gear library that I've helped kind of stand up at Garna. The goal of this club or this project is to kind of lower barriers of access to outdoor recreation. We partnered with Trout Unlimited last year. We did Stream Explorers, in which they used our fly rods, and Chris used them sometime last summer as well. We kind of just loan out gear to help get more people into these sorts of things. So I got funding last year from Colorado Health Foundation to kind of facilitate and create affinity spaces. And one of those affinity spaces that I'm working on creating this year is a fishing club. Now I've got all the gear already, missing some waders. We need some boots and stuff like that. But I wanted to bring it up to y'all to see if there would be any support for Trout Unlimited Collegiate Peaks chapter to kind of help guide this club. I think it's a good opportunity for mentorship and multi-generational programming, as well as creating more diversity within fly fishing in our community. I believe that there's a bunch of upsides, especially potentials with opportunities like this. Obviously, you can read the webpage right here. Hopefully, there's a good little snapshot for y'all. If you have questions, let's just kind of have a discussion about it. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there.
So I
Hey.
have a question.
Yeah.
Transportation is a giant issue, and I know Garna has a van, but
Yeah.
it's really hard to follow up with kids because TU doesn't want us to necessarily transport kids on our own outside of a
Right.
organized project. So can you
So my
address that?
my first purchase as the gear library coordinator was to buy a 12-passenger van. So I have in the gear library a van that I can use to transport to and from, as well as gear.
But does that mean that's going to go to kids' homes and pick them up, or there's a meeting place at a
probably do it
church,
as
or they
we-
have to get to Nathrop, or?
Right. So generally what we do with youth programming is we have pickups in BV and Salida. They're generally the same place every time. We pick up one and the other, and then we go from there. Garnet does a lot of youth programming. We're pretty streamlined at this point how to get people to and from places. Yeah.
How do you see this fishing club being structured? Like a mentorship where you would like pair like a mentor with a new angler on a long-term basis, or something more informal, like, hey, I want to go fishing this day, and people sign up, or larger outings like where you would use the van to bring everybody around?
So it's going to be a little bit more informal than that, as we're talking about people that have historically been not a part of this sort of thing. So we're not trying to be like, hey, here's a mentor, learn how to fish. It's more like, hey, we're going to try to learn how to do this together. And I want to get Trout Unlimited involved in just like slowly getting a part of that teaching from the wealth of knowledge that is accumulated here from you guys to help bring these new anglers along, to teach them the ethics and the values of fishing and help push not only Garna's mission, but as well as Trout Unlimited's mission. So it's going to be fairly informal, but I'd like there to be engagement from Trout Unlimited so we have a more cohesive community behind it.
And Jake, is this just for kids or adults also, or what's the age range?
So this age range is a demographic that Garna, I feel, is missing, which is kind of the 18 to like 30 plus. There's a lot of individuals in this town that don't fall into our standard programming that we do offer. So a lot of our push this year is to kind of do more to kind of reach the demographic of younger adults to get more active in these places. We already do enough youth programming, especially with Stream Explorers, and I have more middle school programming coming this summer. So I'm really trying to get more young adults involved and activated in our community.
And are you working with Jimmy Sellers and his group?
I will be at some point. Right now I'm trying to just get the more BIPOC affinity space, so for Black, Indigenous people of color, and then I'll be working to get the LGBTQ kind of incorporated into this. I've still got more training to do on that, so.
So it's just going in my brain. I think it's a really good idea.
Yep.
I think again, it's just gonna have to be people who are willing to step up, and they don't have to be TU members, I don't think. But the two populations I can think of is reaching out to the prison, where there are numerous Puerto Ricans working, and out to Fading West, where the numerous Venezuelans are working.
Yeah, and we have a little bit of contact. I did intercambio this past year with CMC doing Spanish language exchange. So we do have our feelers out for this sort of thing. It's really just going to be, does Trout Unlimited want to support it in name? Because that would add a little bit more legitimacy to the club as a total. It would look good for both of our pursuits and grant opportunities as well going forward in terms of reporting and stuff like that.
Sounds to me like something that is, I mean, a great idea and also absolutely in line with the Trout Unlimited mission. So does anybody else have thoughts, or can we talk about it? So what you're looking for, Jake, is a resolution of sorts that we will support it and be a part of it, and then we can work together to fine tune the structure and reach out to our members and other people who want to be mentors and help build that group
Absolutely.
of people.
Yeah, first step is just seeing if we can work to this, and then we'll start to build out the collaborative structure behind it and how this relationship actually works.
Okay. Is everybody in favor of that?
I move we support that.
I
Is there a
second.
Okay,
That
all in
Bob?
favor?
Aye.
All right. Great. Yeah, that's going to be a terrific program.
Thanks, y'all.
I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, so the next item is the Colorado Trout Unlimited Youth Camp every summer. It's going to be again in Almont this year. I'm actually going to be volunteering as one of the cooks this year.
One of the cooks. Oh,
Assistant.
good. Make bread.
Yeah, I'm gonna help Chief out this year. So I'll be probably doing a lot of dishes extra. But and then Ro Heinitz is one of our young members who went as a camper 2 years ago and went back as a counselor last year. He's going to be returning as a counselor again. You guys are probably, he goes to all the meetings. You probably have met him there. He's a great guy. Anyhow, for several years, we've provided 2 scholarships for the camp, for campers, and primarily for kids from our area to go. Roe is one that we gave a scholarship to. There's 2 girls from Leadville that went last year on our scholarships. And so we just need to vote again. So this is the reason we're doing this, a couple of these financial votes early is so that we can make the commitment to CTU that we're going to be providing this, because they're taking applications for this already. So they need to know if they have that financial support. So it would be $1,300. Again, this is something we've done for several years. We just need to take a vote to see if we want to continue to do that, to provide those 2 scholarships for the 2024 camp.
I've sent all the
So-
information out to the media people, and the lady at the Fair Play School says she sent the poster and the information out to every kid and parent. in there, but from Canyon City to Leadville, there's information out and some posters, and to past campers, I sent the information, and to all my other youth contacts. So it should be out soon. I move we do it.
Does anybody have any questions
What we're-
about it?
What we're
or-
approving is budgeting 1,300 and then seeking applicants, suitable applicants.
Correct. And really, there's usually a waiting list for this. So, Barbara Luneau heads this up, and she would kind of, yeah, we definitely want to be promoting this to our community, and then Barbara will, I think, kind of match up people from our campers from our area with our scholarships. So
CTU does all the application analysis and choosing.
Okay, sounds good to me.
all right, so we had a motion from Karen to do it. Can we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, cool. Then next item E, this is a great question from Scott as regards the newsletter. And my understanding of it, Scott, was that you were wondering, so we have always included donations that we get each month. Any donations that might come in over the course of that month, we include those in the newsletter, basically as a thank you. And Scott had a question of whether we wanted to include any other financial activities, like if we contributed $1,300 in scholarships to the CTU camp or things like that. And which to me seems like a good idea to let people be more transparent and let people know what we're doing. And so they have a better understanding of what the chapter is active in doing and doing financially. So there's a question is, are there any downsides to doing it that people can think of? Like, why wouldn't we want to do it, I guess?
I don't really like having amounts put by people's names. I think it's fine to do donations, and some organizations will do a range of donations and others just put thanks to these donors. I'm trying to think of, I suppose I don't want a bunch of nitty gritty numbers in there, but if we donate like to the Gear Library or to the executive director of the UAWP or some other organization, I don't think that's a big problem.
I agree with you, Karen. Let me just kind of go back to what my initial question was to Chris and I think Dawn. So basically, also again, being a new member and not being real super familiar with like the rest of the newsletters and whatnot, for example, I think it was last month, we didn't have any donations. So that's just a section of the newsletter gone because, we didn't have anything. So my kind of thinking was not to get into the nitty gritty. And I did ask, do we really want to put like names and amounts, or are people comfortable with that? And some were and some weren't. So I was kind of wondering about that. I think we definitely want to highlight that people are giving to the chapter, and that's really important to encourage people to keep doing that. And then there's things with like, the Blue Triton sponsorship, or, some of the larger ones. So we want to highlight money coming in and partnerships. And then I was just thinking, not going into like, sharing spreadsheets on finances or anything, but just like, hey, we're giving 2 scholarships this month, or hey, we sent somebody to this, or, I was thinking more kind of like top level. I know I'm rambling a little bit now, but that's kind of just what my thought process was. It's like, is there a better way that we can feature financial news or something, again, in a positive way, instead of just listing individual donations, of which sometimes there are some and sometimes there aren't. So I kind of throw that out there. I know it's kind of vague, but Chris, I don't know if I cleared anything up, but that was my thought process that led to basically me asking the question,
I feel like if there's good narrative to it, then why not share it? Just like monetary amounts seems kind of weird at times, but things like we're donating or we're funding some scholarships is a great little blurb in the newsletter, or like how much did we get in donation wise last month type of thing, just thoughts there.
Or if we donate to a grant and it ends up, we give $1,000 and we end up, leveraging that to $10,000, that would be something valuable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we could probably decide on a case by case basis if we wanted to include numbers in it, but I agree with Karen about not including dollar amounts on incoming donations, especially from individuals. That's
I mean, it
something
could
we've
be
done.
something as simple as, you know,
Yeah.
we'd like to thank everyone for, you know, $1,600 in donations in the month of February, you know, from these valued members, and there's a list of names or something. Or, you know, and in other news, we, you know, have contributed a sum towards the new, you know, whatever Upper Arkansas Watershed Partnership, you know, whatever it is. So kind of top level, like positive spin type stuff. But yeah, like Chris, I think what you said, it's maybe case by case, and we don't want to get too in the weeds with it because we don't want people to stop reading, right?
This is just a thought, but what if instead of having dollar amounts, we had donation tier lists? And then like everyone who donates at like this tier and above, like your name gets specifically mentioned, but if not, it's just a general thank you.
I know a lot of big organizations do that, but I don't think we need to do that. I think I like Chris's idea. You know, this month we got $1,600 from Sally, Joe, and Jim. You know,
Scott's idea, but yeah.
I think this
if
is
we
going to
had
take a little more to form and kind of shape this thing, but I think
yeah, and we can do that offline. Yeah, does anybody else have any thoughts? Is everybody kind of cool with that concept of adding you know, our contributions out and as a sort of a way to help people understand what the chapter is involved in? We don't have to take a formal vote on it. Just if everybody's cool with that, we can work with Scott down as we build the new newsletter. All right.
or if you do have thoughts, you know, email them to me and Chris or somebody. Who's just be more thought of kind of showing people that their money is going towards, you know, it's kind of like when we feature projects. It's like, hey, this money's being put towards Monarch Ponds, or, you know, thanks to all the contributors and stuff. So sounds good.
Cool. Thanks, Scott. So next item F, if we're good to go to move on, is a question of we've historically been members of the BV and Salida Chambers of Commerce. And the question is whether we need to continue to do that. And I guess my impression is that we haven't done anything with the Chamber of Commerce since I've been active in the chapter. And so I'm not sure what value we get from it. Karen, I think you had a different opinion, I think, than that we had a conversation a little bit about it.
We've been longtime members of the chamber, both chambers, I believe. And at one time we may still have membership brochures at the Salida Chamber. When BV went away from being a visitor center and to just being a business chamber, there wasn't room for that. They have a new director. She's actually a retired, well, non-practicing environmental attorney. And she's doing a really good job. They were in disarray for about a year with their budget, et cetera. And they have a really good monthly newsletter. We have a community coffee once a month that Salida is now doing that we can share our events at. And you can share your events. You know, there's a thing that goes out monthly to people, and they have a relocation packet so that when people are thinking of moving here and they look at the nonprofits and they will see Trout Unlimited. But I think it's worth it as being a community supporter. I think we could get it for 200 or 250. Remember, they went through the changes in membership levels, so we could be at the bottom level. And you get mentioned on the website and in the whole group of nonprofits, and you can put whatever you want in there with our logo for our listing.
Well, if we want to be a community participant, I agree with Karen. I don't think we're very much commerce related though. My experience with both chambers over the years when I was president was that the return on the investment was nil. I used them several times to advertise member meetings, and I can't remember one new member or attending member at any of the member meetings attributing notification in the chamber newsletters. Now, I know that was years ago and things have probably changed, but in a cost benefit ratio, there is none. In a participatory stance, there's value.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever, as an individual, had any interaction with a chamber of commerce. Um, I don't know if that's a generational thing or what, but if I guess if you guys think it's valuable, I don't know the value of it.
One question
Yeah,
I have actually loops back around to when Chris was talking about fundraising, or sorry, recruiting sponsors for the film festival. You know, it's kind of like if we're in the club, does that buy us a little bit of goodwill to maybe get more sponsorships? Again, I'm not really sure will amount to anything, but I don't know. That's just the one thing I was thinking of. Probably not.
It's a good thought. When we did the Caddis Festival, we always got the membership list from the chambers. So we had contact information. It was invaluable.
Hmm.
And I have those old lists. You know,
I mean, there's Google, like you can just look up any company or business. What does the chamber actually do for what we would want?
exposure, but if you're going to go through and find out the contact information for every business that you want to solicit, I'll give that job to you. Because I've done a lot of that stuff and it is very time consuming. But it's what the group wants, you know, could be different.
Has anyone met the new director here in BV or heard anything
Oh, yeah.
about future changes or kind of a re-energizing of what's happening?
Totally re-energizing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm more familiar with Salida. Lori, who's the
Yep.
chamber director there, worked for me for years. And you know, I used to have great interactions with John Engelbrecht, who was the director for years. I've belonged to 5 or 6 chambers when I was in business. And from a business standpoint, I think it's invaluable. And to Dave, to your point about the value, I think chamber members do business with other chamber members. That's kind of a given, that people do recognize that you're in like this club, like Scott was mentioning about, are you in the club? It is kind of a club in that regard. And to the value for this group, I don't really know. From a business, I wouldn't think about being in this valley and not being members of the chambers. I used to belong to 5 or 6 chambers, even outside of the valley, because there was value in being able to interact with chamber business members. So I don't know. It's marginal, and I think it was only $200, wasn't it,
Right.
Karen?
I think
Is
so.
that lower level? I'm not sure what the lowest level for Salida is, but I don't know. I guess you try it and see, and it is up to the chamber director to push what goes on in that chamber. There's no doubt about it that the chamber director has huge impacts on what goes on.
Else have thoughts?
Here, I like Bob's comments. I think we should do it a year and see how it goes.
I think if we have better recognition of it as if we try to utilize it as a tool and see, like we haven't been active or tried to promote through it or anything. It just wasn't on my radar. So when we kind of take a look and see if we can tell if it has benefits for us. Bob is
just
as
promoting. I'm sorry.
What's that?
Bob, when you were a member as a business, do you recall kind of seeing on the list of that there were nonprofits in there and having that interaction?
Oh, there are
Like,
tons. There's probably 50 nonprofits.
Yeah.
okay, do the businesses patronize those nonprofits because they're chamber members, like they do other chamber businesses, or?
I think when people participate, the thing that I always found value in, and this is even in bigger chambers like Colorado Springs, going to a business after hours and shaking hands and meeting people was huge for us. And, you know, we belong to little ones in Custer County, in Westcliff, Woodland Park, Canyon City, Salida. And, so from that standpoint, but you know, to be honest, I don't know about the nonprofit angle and the TU thing. I just know that they're very valuable from a business standpoint. I would not think about being in a valley and not being part of a local chamber as a business.
With all the youth development stuff that we do, you can always push that as opportunities for businesses, the employees of those businesses, for their families, kids.
I guess aside from the monetary commitment, which seems fairly nominal, is there a time commitment that we need to be mindful of? I mean, in terms of Chris, or like, are there, I've seen like, coffee with the chamber things, on BV Facebook, like, are there monthly meetings? Is there any other kind of commitment we need to be?
If you'd like to be on the board of directors, they're accepting applications for that. But no, in the community coffee at both Salida and Buena Vista is just whoever wants to show up, come on. If there's an event like when I went last year, I represent 3 nonprofits there, TU being one. So I touted, the CTU camp applications that were getting ready to come up.
So since they're kind of open to public, there's no really need to be a part of the chamber. If I can
No,
go shake
there's not
hands.
for that.
Yeah. I mean, for the shaking hands part, yeah. I go to the
No, I
coffee
mean,
one at
business
Salida.
after hours, you have to belong,
Right.
pretty much,
Yes.
to get the benefit of that.
And then we would be able to.
And it
host
highlights the
events.
different business. I mean, TU could highlight, a business after hours. And like one of the programs that we do, you can make it a business after hours. They're always looking for ideas. They could be totally creative.
Okay. So
Let's
we
just
could look at
vote
it
on
I'm
as
not
a-
pushing the whole idea because I can understand your points. I just know from a business standpoint, but that's different. Karen seems to have a good angle from the nonprofit angle.
Are we
Well,
ready
also, I
to?
mean, haven't we
Put it to
been
a
a
vote.
part of the chamber in the past?
Oh, for years.
Yeah, for a long time.
So is it, I mean, like, has it been worth it?
There you
I think
go.
some of those things are so hard to measure. So hard to measure. It's like, did your ad on Facebook work? You don't know that unless you ask everybody how they found out about it.
You got metrics for that.
I was gonna say Facebook's different, yeah, 'cause there's metrics and clicks and likes. Somewhat
There
different
are,
than like
but
a
it doesn't mean you're
newspaper
showing up
ad.
at an event.
No, but it's easier to monitor and know who's seeing and interacting and participating.
Yeah.
Than like an ad in a newspaper. You don't really know beyond readership, but
We can actually target ads, which is actually interesting about Facebook. We can target demographics and see who's engaging. So if we're going to spend
But you
that
guys are on
money,
a whole different subject now.
Right.
sure.
That's way different. You're talking
Right.
about advertising and
But
advertising.
the
Yeah.
chamber is
and
tied into
marketing.
all those metrics things too, in social media and stuff. I'm just not.
no, and I
Take
feel like
notice.
it's been mentioned, like it's a nominal amount. It is being part of the larger community in the valley, and
It seems like a pretty low cost way to just keep getting our logo in front of people and stay in the conversation, to me.
Yeah.
But-
Yeah, my thinking is
Let's
that
make a motion and move on.
if we're looking at it strictly from like a advertising benefit, there's better ways to spend that money. But if we're looking at it in terms of like being, a visible member of the community and goodwill and things like that, it may be worth
That's
the
just
expenditure.
consistency, in my opinion. You just got to be consistent with community. That's how you build that sort of thing. It's not a
Yeah.
mailer that new residents get.
Plus,
And
if
it
you want to
all-
have input on water in the town or the county, you better be involved. But, all right. I move that we join the chamber at their lowest level. The slide at
Second.
Buena Vista Chamber.
I second.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
It's okay to be
Okay,
opposed.
So we have, yeah. This is a democracy.
Is that for both
Um,
chambers or just BV?
I'll go with
Um,
both chambers. I
I,
don't,
I
but
think that it should be for both.
Okay.
BV is the one that's up for renewal, but the same conversation applies to Salida, I think. So we haven't seen anything.
so did that
from them in a
pass?
while.
I was,
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
With one negative vote.
That's okay.
And I think we should definitely try to use it more than we have in the last year, but also look closely at it and revisit this next year.
So it would be, the newsletter would be a great place to put in the film festival.
Yeah, no, we need to utilize it more. So, all right, let's move on. We're falling behind time here. Bob, you have a couple items here. Scout Wave update, if you would like to
the
let
Scout
us know
Wave,
what's up there.
Chris, I just sent you a photo and then I realized it's like, what's the point of sending the photo when 4 hours later, the whole place looked totally different. They are just going crazy in that place. That was on Tuesday when I took that photo. It's totally different that afternoon and right now, and they're getting after it. Alex Townsend, the CPW fishery biologist that we were concerned about, being on site, has been on site, and so I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be totally restructured. It doesn't look anything like it did prior to them starting this basic. It's more than a remodel. It's a total redo. Not much is still there from prior than the middle of January. The whole bank has changed. The access will change. There'll still be a feature there, but I think the boat chute fish ladder is going to be fine. I don't think there's much to worry about there. I don't know if you guys, has anybody else looked at it?
Not lately. Are the fish ladder and the boat chute one and the same?
Yes.
Okay.
And
On the north side?
Yeah, Alex
Yes.
had for the original plans, Alex had problems with the fish ladder. But those have all been corrected. So he signed off. So he's happy with the new structure. And like Bob said, I guess he's down there basically like every day, making sure they're doing it right. So we should be happy with fish passage.
Should be a non-issue from the fishery standpoint. We'll see if boaters feel the same. I'm not sure, but they just got to make sure it's wide enough for a boat to get through there with oars. So yeah. Is that good on that? Does anybody have questions?
I think so. Cool. Next would be the Wellsville temperature gauge. And this follows up on an email that Bob sent out a while back, which hopefully everybody has.
I wanted to make sure you got the email and understood it. I didn't hear from anybody, but I have worked a little more on this whole idea. But right now, what we're looking at is the Wellsville gauge having a temperature monitoring system on that gauge. And that's a Division of Water Resources gauge, which is different than USGS gauges, which are some of our other gauges on the Arkansas, like at Nathrop and Parkdale. So this particular proposal, I guess, when I presented it to them, they came back right away and said, we could do this. It'll be $600 to install it, $1,200 for the device. We'll take care of the operation and the continual maintenance. I thought that was extremely reasonable, especially when you're talking about operations and maintenance into the future. And Wellsville is a good location, and you guys all fish, and I just wanted to check in and see if that would be something you would utilize. And I know we all carry thermometers, especially during caddis hatch, looking for the magic 54 degrees. But the other reason I'm looking at this is we had Alex Townsend was at the AROA ARCC meeting, Arkansas River Conservation Cooperative meeting a month ago, and we talked to him about this. And if we can have a place that is set, it's not raft guides or fishing outfitters or whoever running around with thermometers, dropping them in the river and reporting. If we have a set location that we can build a database, it may help them in the future. If unfortunately we may run into back-to-back years like 2002 and 12, where we have really low water and some really hot temperatures. So if we can build a database that will show the effects of the fishery, that will tie into their annual shocking, wherever they're doing that, and just have another piece of information to work the management of the fishery, it could be beneficial to the potential to go and ask for more wet water if we needed it to help cool the river, if we actually had data that showed that that could be important to the fishery. If you guys know about other rivers in Colorado that are going through sometimes some seasonal hoot owl restrictions, like up in Montana, it's been a huge problem. The fisheries are under stress there, and they have that designation quite often. And we even have it in Colorado. And in Colorado, if you look at a gauge at the Colorado River at Kremling, it has all kinds of information: dissolved oxygen, turbidity, pH, as well as temperature. So what we're looking for is just temperature at this gauge at this time to help. But it's been critical for those folks up on the Colorado, the upper Colorado. So what we're looking at is, you know, it was asked of me, it's like, well, could we get partners? And I said, well, we could ask TU. And I guess my ask is, if you guys want, we could split this between the outfitters and TU. It'd be $900 each. This thing could be installed really soon. I mean, when they started the conversation in January, they said we could have this up in March. So they're kind of ready to go, and they're just waiting to see for me to pull the trigger and say, go ahead and invoice us and let's get it going. What ties into this as well is I'm working with the USGS. There's a federal priority stream gauge program that gauges fall under, that maybe we can get this kind of a situation at Parkdale but maybe even including Nathrop. And at Parkdale, we're also looking at the potential for a turbidity monitoring station that would help another partner, which is the city of Canyon City, which would have the ability to know if a flood carrying debris was coming down that could affect their wastewater or water treatment plants. So there's a lot of other partners that could come into play, or maybe it's covered under this program. And those are some of the other gauges we're working on. But tonight's conversation mostly focuses on this Wellsville gauge because it's DWR and not USGS, and they're ready to go. So want to know what you guys' thoughts might be. Do you want to be involved or not, or whatever? If you're not, we're going to do it anyway. So it's
It would be $900 if we split it with the outfitters.
yeah, it's 800 total. It'd be
It
really
makes
cool
sense
to be
me.
partnering with
Meets our
TU.
mission, and the science part is good.
It's 800 or 900? I thought you said it was like
900, it's
total.
1,800 total.
Okay.
And we could use that other $1,000 that was in the resiliency fund. This kind of has to do with resiliency.
Yeah, there's money left over in the 2023 budget, I think, from other areas potentially. So, are you, well, we can talk offline about like Arwick and River Science, and they've got some sonds located here and there.
That's another part of this, Chris, is
Okay.
We can mention that real quick. Yeah, Arwick, Arkansas River Watershed Coalition, has partnered with River Science, Luke Javernick and Canyon, and tried to install sondes that had this same information, temperature and turbidity, in a couple different places. And to be honest, it's been a total pain in the ass for these guys. They can't find a place to do it. They can't get the telemetry to work. Telemetric signals are having a difficult time coming out of the places they are, which is totally different than where these established gauges have been there for decades and decades. They would be relieved to see this take a different turn and move to this site at Wellsville. And then especially we could get Parkdale on gauge as well, on a gauge as well.
So is Luke?
So yeah, they're in support of this as well, Chris.
Okay. Is Luke in the conversation on this too?
Yeah, Luke is through Jonathan. I haven't talked to Luke.
Okay.
But I talk to Jonathan all the time about it, and I've had a lot of conversations with Travis Payne, who's the water operator in Canyon.
Well, I'm always a fan of more science, so more data is good, always good.
Yeah,
Um,
Bob, I think again, this is awesome. This is great. And I think the turbidity down low is gonna be great. And Luke, Luke's stuff with river science is really cool. There's a
Yeah.
lot of really good stuff happening down there in Canyon. So way to go.
So I think we do have the money available, potentially. And this is DWR, so this would always will be publicly available online, Bob.
What
Like
would be online?
the data is,
Oh,
do we
yeah,
anticipate
you
this
just
being
go to
like
the Wellsville gauge. If you look at other
it's
gauges
going to
that
be
have other
real time?
information, they have they have stream flow and discharge, but look at Upper Colorado and look at Kremling, and it's just like, oh man, I wish we had all that information, especially dissolved oxygen and turbidity. But DWR will not do turbidity at Wellsville, which was unfortunate, but it's not that's as critical as some other places. For turbidity.
And it's
For us,
real,
for
is it real
anglers,
time available
real
on time?
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Great.
Hourly.
Okay. Do we have more questions? Discussion, anybody? All right. Well, can we have a motion to go ahead and contribute $900 to installing the temperature gauge at Wellsville?
I'll move. So moved.
I second.
Who was the
Okay.
second? I'm sorry, I'm not at my screen.
Dave Belmont.
Dave,
Thank you, that's what I thought.
Kim and Dave.
All right.
Yeah.
All in favor?
I
I
great
Any
idea.
opposed? No opposed? Okay. Cool. We'll keep us posted on that, Bob.
I will. I already have the money allocated through the outfitters, and I'll move on it starting tomorrow.
Thanks,
Will
Bob.
there, is there going to be any promotion, signage, sort of recognition opportunities for this?
I don't know. Where at the site or where?
I don't know. At the site, on the,
I think we
anywhere.
start with our newsletter, right, Scott?
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say
we
Scott's
we
writing
can
an
certainly
article.
feature it,
for
we
the
can
Daily
write an
Mail or
article about it in the,
Mail.
yeah. Sorry, I don't know
Yeah.
if I was just talking over Keith, but yeah, we can write an article about it in the paper or something. And the newsletter.
Yeah, we
can just
we
feature that.
definitely should have that. So,
For sure.
no, just curious if there's going to be anything out there. They usually don't try to, they try to sort of hide those things so they don't get vandalized, so putting signs up is, but, so, all right, let's move on then. So, just real quick, I wanted to kind of tell you guys about another conservation initiative that's been started by Envision that we're a part of, and that's the Envision Trail System and Conservation Working Group. We had our first meeting last month, and so this is convened by Envision, and the idea is to come up with a comprehensive trail system plan for the county. And so the first meeting working group was, I'd say there's probably about 40 people there, from us, Garna. Actually, Jess was out of town, so she didn't, but she was going to be a part of it. Buffy from CCC was there, all of the agencies, so Forest Service and CPW and Bureau of Rec people that are, and BLM folks that are working in the area were all there. And the idea for the first working group was to just look at a bunch of maps and identify problem areas and potential solutions for the problems. And so for me being there, I was mostly just watching these other people, but like we're the rangers that are walking these trails every day. We're like, oh yeah, there's a switchback problem here, and there's a parking issue at the Pine Creek trailhead, that kind of stuff. So my thinking is that where we can be helpful here is in that same way. If you have areas where you've recognized trails that are in bad shape, there's a lack of a trail. It occurs to me that AHRA has all kinds of fishing access points, and almost none of them have established trails. So we just have social trails basically right on the bank, you know, compacting that bank and promoting sloughing and erosion. So that's one thing that occurred to me. But if you guys, and it doesn't have to be Riverside either, if you have ideas of trails that are problematic or areas where you've, you know, just be thinking about it, and we can potentially put together a list. The next meeting is next month. There was a group that was going through and looking to find GIS layers and that kind of thing and put them together. So this is in its beginning phases, but they're looking at doing this over the next, I think, 2 years to try to have this comprehensive trails plan together. And the idea being that that will give a plan that will allow for coherent allocation of funds and a you know, a logical sequence of events in terms of where they work and when to get this thing realized. So I just wanted to let you know that's a new initiative that's happening that the chapter has been asked to be involved in. So just to let you guys know that what's going on. But like I said, there's some people there that know every inch of trail in Chaffee County intimately that are working on this thing. So I'm happy
Chris,
that they were.
Do you know if they're working from the previous county trails plan?
I would
Or if
think they
anybody
are.
even knows there was one?
I don't know the answer to that. I didn't know there was one. So
Yes,
this is
there was one.
this is Cindy Williams from Envision
Yeah.
that's heading this up, and like there's
There's a
everybody
plan
that
before Cindy.
everybody that knows anything about there's a lot of people in there that have been in the valley forever and working on this stuff.
Yeah.
Folks from Spot and so on. So I think so, but I don't know. As I say, at this point, I feel like our involvement is sort of peripheral, and
Yeah.
but you know, I feel good that we were invited to the table. I think that shows that we're getting recognition and legitimacy, or continuing to have it, that we're invited to participate in saying things like this. So, yeah, not too much to report there. I just, like I said, I want to keep you guys informed of stuff we're doing. So, next item, 2024 budget starts April 1st, which means that Don is going to be taking his maiden voyage and creating the new budget. So committee chairs, we need to have everybody get together and figure out budgets for your items. So adult education, that's Brian. Fundraising, I've talked to Keith about fundraising and youth education. The outreach, which is the derbies, that's Karen. You're the chair of that
Yeah.
one. I will get together with you and our new folks.
No, I just got you some new folks. I am not on that committee.
So that is outreach is the community involvement and programs. You're the chair of programs, so you now are chair of this one. Those got lumped together. But I think derbies is going to be the primary thing there. So we just need to get together and figure that out. And we've got a plan for that. I've met with all the folks that are doing both the derbies, and we got a schedule to get budgets for those together, so we can work on that. Gene is ahead of the game and already has his stuff done. And then, yeah, Keith, we just need to work on youth ed and fundraising, and make sure we get all that stuff to Don in plenty of time for him to get his work done. So we can get those committees convened to talk that over. That would be fantastic. So next item, Karen, you asked to add Colorado Rail Safety Bill support. You were breaking up when you asked about that. Is there a time frame that we need to be thinking about here?
No, but this is real simple because this is the group with the Center for Biological Diversity on the whole Uinta train, but that the bull moose is also involved in, because Colorado legislature has some new rail safety proposals in a bill, and CTU has taken a position to support it and written a letter, and they just want to have chapters also write a letter. It's like when things happened in Ohio and that terrible train wreck last year. No rail safety, or the rail companies have been stymieing any changes to rail safety. So this would help us if the Uinta type things are still coming down the road. So I would move
So-
that we write,
The
I can have
last-
Reed write a letter supporting this legislation.
The last time I talked with Barb about that, I think there are 3 bills that we talked about. I think this one hadn't been fully, I can't remember now if it was this one, hadn't been fully written yet, and CTU was supporting it in principle, but was waiting to see the final language of the legislation. Do you know if it's been finalized and we're supporting it based on that?
Let me ask Reed, has that bill been finalized? Barb Shiloh said CTU was just waiting to see.
No, it's already, it's all already going through the process.
It's-
They're having hearings and.
They're already having hearings
Well,
on this
they're gonna
bill,
have more hearings. They haven't. But it's,
but CTU has written their letter of support.
they haven't written it, but I've been told they will be writing it.
Did you? They haven't written it, but they will be writing it, because Barb Sheloff is in the Bull Moose group that Reed
She's in charge of it.
goes to Monday nights.
Gene?
So-
Can we get a copy of the bill before we decide whether we should support it or not?
Well, you can get a copy of the bill, but it's gonna change. All bills never stay the same. It's gonna go through, that's what's happening now. It's sounding like right now where they've got, the House has what they want, but they'll go to the Senate, and then the Senate will make the changes they want, and they'll have to come back and compromise.
I'll try to have Reed
But then,
send an email to Barb to send you guys the bill, because we're not going to be in communication.
but
We
then,
should be able to find it. It should be, if it's been
Needs to
submitted
happen.
to,
That
it
needs
should
to
be
happen
posted
already.
online.
needs to be submitted within a week.
He said they wanted support, letter of support in a week.
All you're doing is signing a letter of support as a chapter.
But you can make an email vote later if you want, after somebody gets the bill and circulates it, and nobody will read it anyway.
Friends of Browns Canyon is already okayed and they're on board.
The bill should be posted on the Colorado State Legislature website. If it's, I believe, if it's in committee, as it is, but yeah, so we're basically looking at writing a letter of support in principle for
It'll be a letter.
the bill, in whatever its final form is, which is pretty typical.
We're signing the letter that bylaw to what diversity has written to be submitted. It'd be easier for me to send a copy of the letter.
Reed will send you a copy of the letter,
Yeah,
hopefully.
please send us a copy of the
Except he
letter so
doesn't
we
have
can
his
read it.
computer here, and
Well, it might be on my.
we'll see what we can do, so.
Kate
Okay.
just posted a link in the chat to the bill.
What's that?
Jake just posted in the chat a link to the bill.
Oh, well,
That was
Yeah.
Jake.
It's 18 pages. I think there's a summary
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
actual website.
Yeah. So, but if we could see the actual text of the letter that we're being asked to sign to, that would be nice.
okay,
Um,
he'll look for it and try to send it to you, Chris.
okay. All right, great. And I can send it out. And you said they want it signed within the week or by next
Yeah,
week?
yeah, you don't have to write a letter, you just have to sign on to the letter, it's already been written.
Okay. All right, well, when I see that, we'll just send it out to everybody and we'll do an email vote and get that work done. So I know you guys are gonna be out of town. So, okay. All right, next reports. I sent out that update whenever I sent that out this week, maybe this morning, about what's going on with South Arc and Monarch Park. If anybody saw that, if anybody has any questions
Whoa.
about that.
I just have a question, and Scott can maybe answer this. I can't remember, I know that the CTU website has a fabulous article on the Monarch Ponds thing. And I just don't remember if I also read that in our newsletter.
We did link to that
Okay,
for
thank
sure.
you.
Yeah, I believe that was either last month or January, but it's been in, I think, a couple months running in some form or another. One of them was like a feature article you
Yeah.
know, text and pictures within the body of the newsletter. And there was another one that was like a link to the
I thought so, but
to
Brain
one.
doesn't.
Yeah, and we also shared it all over social media when it first came out, when November or whenever that was.
Well, people don't.
So yeah, we're moving forward with the design on that. It looks like it's going to be a lot cheaper than we originally had feared, so that's great news. That means we may not end up having to put any cash forward. We had $8,000 earmarked for it, but we may not have to use that because hopefully we'll be able to cover the match requirement with all the in-kind work that was done. So South Arc, we're moving forward more and more on that. We're doing great work in the next couple weeks on that. Hopefully getting a big pile of free assistance from National Park Service program that I talked about earlier. So that's in process, and the deadline for that's March 1st. So I'll keep you all posted on that. And then Gene had put out the vet committee, and we mentioned earlier the dates of those two events. So does anybody have any questions about that or comments or anything? No? All right, well, that's the end of the agenda. Does anybody have any other items they wanted to bring up? Hearing none, I think we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting. So thanks you everybody for your patience and your time and your input here. We got a lot of good stuff done. So next board meeting will be in May. We'll do one real quick before we do adjourn for the summer, and hopefully it won't be too much stuff other than just planning ahead for the summer events. So all right, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you,
Yep.
Chris.
Have a great
Good
night.
job. Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
Alfred. Awesome.